Yo, what's up guys? Today I'm gonna answer all of your questions asked in the previous videos that I did reply, but still I think if I explain a bit more as a video, it would be better. And also I have updated my spreadsheet. I have changed the dual bingo wildfire and the jaws bingo room bringer. I'm gonna talk about this later. Let's go through the questions people are asking about. Do you use battlefield mods? So what he means is probably the battle mods. We got the battlefield mod and the battle mods. Those two are different. The battlefield mode just useless for PvP. So people are still confused about the damage reduction that we get in from the battle mods. So we got the additional weapon damage inflicted after hitting the unit reduced by 15% for 2 seconds. Let's say in open PvP there's a group fight. You are fighting against two people. Let's say one guy is A, the other guy is B. Let's say you shoot the A guy and then the A guy will do 15% less damage to you. It's not gonna show in the stats. That's how the inflict works. So you have to shoot the target. That specific target will do less damage towards you. So simply if you shoot a target, you're gonna get damage reduction for 2 seconds only from that specific target, not from others. You will take full damage from other people. And next we got the status inflicted, which is the same thing I explained about the weapon damage. Instead this one is status. Next we got the receive 8% weapon damage reduction for 3 seconds if you take damage. So if a target does damage to you, you get a damage reduction, which doesn't mean you have to shoot the target, but in this case you're gonna get a damage reduction anyways, whether you shoot a target or if you got shoot from behind or whatever the situation. If you just take damage, you get damage reduction. Same goes for the status damage reductions. The best would be, as I explained in the battle mods video, the weapon damage reduction with weapon inflict and the weapon receive. These three will give you the maximum defensive. So if you have good battle mods, at least the weapon damage reduction and the receive one, this is worthy. The whatever the build you use, you can have the same battle mods for every single build. So it will take some time, but if you have the battle mods, use it. If you have good battle mods, at least those two being gold and having the inflict whatever and having two battle mods, which gonna be the weapon one and next one gonna be only status related, then you basically counter everything at the same time. So I hope that will clear every doubt about the battle mods. If you got good battle mods, just use it. It's better than the regular mods. Next we got build DE jaws for PvP. I have already covered the video, but I think it needs some updates, but I'm gonna talk about this later in the video. Why Mayfly goggles, not overload pants? What makes bow OP is the stacks, not the damage. So the goggles gonna give you +1 to the stacks, which gonna be better because because the overload pants you have to trigger 20 times, which means you have to shoot 4 times with the Mayfly goggles and the thunderclap. And I have seen people say the enemy could have the impulse regulator, and yes, they can have the impulse regulator, but if you making the bow long term, then you're gonna balance the status damage and the elemental damage. And even if you have the regulator, it's gonna penetrate. The only scenario I can think that you shouldn't use the thunderclap with is the MPS7. I know in the video I have said use this as secondary, but you're gonna use this in really situational stuff. Like let's say you have down a player, then you can use the MPS7, which can kill the down player faster than the bow. If you have really good reloading speed, I don't think you even need to have the MPS7. You can just, but if you have less reloading speed as you expected, then you can go with the MPS7. You can use this in PvP if someone is down or someone can literally one shot by this. Cross resist and burn resist from the height can reduce the damage from players that use elemental weapon. Guys, for the top and shoes and the mask, you should use the golden wool, which gonna give you the more benefit overall. And for the bottom and the top, you gonna use the Westland Wolfisk. You get damage reduction from the top by using the wool, and from the mask you're gonna get the damage, and from the shoes you're gonna get the rolling speed, from the iced tea you're gonna get rolling speed and the movement speed. So this completely covers every single aspect. Don't use anything else. If you're gonna use anything else, then you're gonna have something more and you're gonna have other things less. I want to try PvP of once human, probably minus server. Do you get points when you kill people? No, you don't get any reward in PvP. Meta will be divided into Rosetta and Mayfly. He is explained about the Prismverse. You need to get Prism Deviant as quickly as possible and put in the base and protect it. Other people try to go destroy your base and be prepared. So he covered the Prismverse, so thank you very much. So I would say in Evo servers, we just gonna have this chaotic Cortex, which no one purify because the game doesn't give any rewards for PvP. And we have the Warband and the Warband Wars, which can held in a frontiers, for example Giant Stairs, Dry Valley. There are no rewards for PvP players. Only thing you're gonna get is this Butterfly Emissary Crate, and also you can get a Warband Trophy. These two are the only thing. It's completely useless. After they introduced the Asterism Crate system, the PvP is completely killed. Which mod passive I need? 12% crit damage and reduction or weapon damage overall. So in my corrosion video, I have explained you only need is crit damage because you can have weapon damage. The weapon damage will increase your base damage, which could be the 262. In this case, you will do overall base damage and the base crit damage, but you're gonna lose the power surge damage as the crit damage because the power surge can crit still. So if you can get 3 golds, then it's good. For example, like this status reduction and the weapon damage and the crit damage. In that case, this will do overall more damage. So unless if you have 2 golds, then I think you should focus on the either one of the reductions or the crit damage. If you use crit damage gold and the weapon damage or the status reduction gold, and then you can focus on the weapon damage. That's with the battle mods, you can go for the maximum damage while the battle mods gonna cover up the rest of the reductions. So overall get 2 golds, which gonna be the crit damage and the weapon damage reduction or the status reduction. With battle mods, if you don't have battle mods, then get dual reduction, which gonna put your reductions around 30 to 40. Then with the cradle, you're gonna either have 40 or 50. For PvP, you don't want to use thunderclap. Most people will have the lightning regulator and heal off the proc. You will be trolling your team. The enemy wouldn't die and will only get stronger. I believe new outer space also proc lightning regulator. Use life force instead. If you have good mods, it doesn't have to be like 3 golds. If you have one of the reduction, let's say weapon damage reduction, elemental damage and status damage, then you're gonna do more damage. Even if the enemy have the lightning regulator, you just gonna penetrate. If someone having hard time with the lightning regulator, then I think you have the wrong core effect or the wrong substat. Someone say just use static shock into other key surface like shock rampage. You don't want to use anything except for the static shock because the duration doesn't matter. The power surge damage matters because the shock rampage have stacks. Instead, we're gonna have the maximum stack damage compared to this in the static shock because the surge is an instant damage. So the duration doesn't matter, only the overall damage over anything else for any build for PvE or PvP, including the bow, the corrosion, the MPS 7, whatever you use, you're gonna use the static shock over anything else. You can use anything else if you have like a really good substat, then you can use that. Other than that, stick with the static shock. What's your top? So in the top one, I have explained in the can go for either endurance shield or the resist advantage. You can use headguard, it works, and the critical rescue. Only those four. Everything else is kinda useless. You can have the endurance shield if you're using the savior. You're gonna have a shield on top of your HP bar. For example, I'm gonna summon my deviant. It's also gonna give you a shield even if the enemy does damage through his status. For example, let's say the burn, the shock from the bow will reduce the shield portion before your HP. So with the savior, the endurance shield might be better. If you use this Stormweaver, I would say go with the resist advantage or the critical rescue. Critical rescue is only good if you have like a dual reduction and you are just completely running a tank build. If you're doing some damage while tanking some, then you can go with the resist advantage. When you lose the damage reduction stacks, you're gonna gain the damage reduction stack from the Stormweaver. You could have average like 25% damage reduction overall in PvP, whether you take damage or not in average. So simply, if you're going with the savior, go with endurance shield or the headguard, and if you're using the Stormweaver, you can use the resist advantage. If you use 3-piece savior and the 3-piece Stormweaver and you are running a dual Doombringer or some kind of tank build, then you can use the critical rescue, which is better as a tank. Please show this build, which means the Bingo Wildfire build, which I'm gonna talk later in this video. Is Corrosion is still in STF for PvP? And I think yes, because even after the buff or the nerf they did, the corrosion is still gonna do the power surge crit damage. The only stat that can do the crit damage is the corrosion and the jaws. So personally, I would think if I'm trying a status build, I might as well try a crit build instead of the talent build. But overall, I think this is still gonna be the S tier weapon. Why crit boost instead of crit amplifier? That's in the Doombringer video. So in Doombringer, you can have the crit rate 30% only. Because the keyword we use doesn't give any crit rate, the weapon already have crit rate, but to make things better, we don't have any other crit rate factors except the faithful strike, the target strike, and the calibration. So for overall damage, crit boost works for the Doombringer better compared to something like a crit amplifier. The only good thing about the crit amplifier is if you're going for the corrosion, then you should use a crit amplifier instead of the crit boost. If you test overall damage, the crit amplifier is better for the corrosion and the jaws. Is the new food 15 damage reduction in low HP better than the safety sandwich? You know, the safety sandwich gonna give you the damage reduction even if you have the full HP or whatever, and don't use anything related for low HP unless you are running the full tank build with the 3 Stormweaver, the 3 Savior and the critical rescue, and then you can have this event low HP food buff. I don't know which one he means. Overall, the safety sandwich is the best. It's a must have which cannot replace by anything. What is the best PvP build at the moment? So this one is like 4 months ago, but I think I should talk about this now as well. So for the top build, as I see the Doombringer, the Jaws, the Wildfire and the Corrosion is still a good pick, and I also see the Bingo, the Bramini and the Bow. If you ask me the best build at the moment, it's gonna be the Bow because the stacks is still high. If you have good mods, I'm not talking about like having 3 gold mods. If you have like 2 gold mod, if you have like the suffix mod and the elemental and the status and everything balanced, which calibration to use on Jaws and the low? You shouldn't use the low with the Jaws. You can use the Bingo with the Jaws. The low is like a different build, but for the Jaws you're gonna have the Bingo, and for the calibration you are going with the rapid dual crit rate. And now let's talk about the spreadsheet changes I have made. So first we're gonna talk about the dual bingo. We're gonna use weapon symphony because people have questioned about my builds, what I use for PvP personally. For example, for dual bingo you can use weapon symphony. Your damage gonna decay over time, so you're just gonna shoot 2 or 3 bullets, then swap to the other bingo, then you're gonna shoot 3 more bullets and then swap back and shoot 2 more kind of thing. The weapon already have enough weak spot damage. For example, if you see we got 2% crit rate and weak spot damage 95%. So you're gonna have enough weak spot damage. So for example, let's say you got all the substat in all the weapons and all the weapon and the armor mods to the gold, you still can compete with the weak spot damage you are getting from the substat and the key fit and the cradle. So you're gonna have overall more weak spot damage. So what you need is you're gonna have to have more weapon damage in every single way possible, because it's gonna boost your overall damage. Everything else is the same. Then we're gonna talk about the big Wildfire. We're gonna use the momentum up, which gonna give you the weapon damage after the half of the mag. This will heavily benefit for the Wildfire, but for the bingo it will as well. For example, I'm gonna say I have 5 bullets and I have equipped the momentum up. For example, let's say I'm gonna crouch and I'm gonna see how much weapon damage I have. I have 18.6% weapon damage. So let's say if I shoot 3 more bullets, so now I only have 2 bullets, so now we have 48.6% weapon damage. So what we have to do is focus on the weapon damage as much as you can, because you're gonna have more weak spot damage. No matter the weapon damage you're gonna have more weak spot damage. And next we're gonna talk about the jaws. So for the jaws you're gonna use the heavy explosion for the stagger, and we're gonna use the momentum up. The reason for the momentum up is the stagger gonna reduce your unstable bomber damage, but the good thing about the jaws is this gonna do the crit damage. So you're gonna do crit damage, so you're gonna do base damage, base crit damage, unstable bomber damage and unstable bomber crit damage. In this case, since they nerfed the stagger, we're gonna use the stagger, but at the same time we're gonna do damage, but at the same time we're gonna focus on the weapon damage, which gonna be the momentum up. And for the substat we're gonna have the crit damage, and then we're gonna have the weapon damage. And for the substat we are balancing the crit damage and the weapon damage. So even with the stagger you're gonna do way more base damage and the base crit damage. Even if you do less unstable bomber crit damage, overall you're gonna do way more damage. I think Jaws and the Wildfire can be equal. Maybe the odds more into the Wildfire, cause you can use the Wildfire and have the bingo, and you can have the same exact build without getting limited by the cradle or the key armor or anything else. In that case, I think Wildfire have more benefits. Next, we're gonna talk about the bingo Doombringer. I have included in my Doombringer video, I have explained why having a blue mod is good. If you already have like 30%, 40% dual reduction, then you can go for the blue mod, which gonna increase your overall crit rate and crit damage, which is really good because of the target strike and the faithful strike and everything, just which gonna push this weapon to have more crit rate, because the Doombringer already have 30% crit rate but the bingo doesn't. So in conclusion, you're gonna use the vulnerability amplifier if you want higher damage reduction, but if you want more damage or trigger chance, the blue mod crit boost. That's pretty much it for the builds. I will provide the link for the spreadsheet in the description, and thanks for watching and peace out.